I think if I hear you call me Becky one more time, six-pack, I'm gonna pop your tops. All six of them.
Who are you?
To another review, and this is another request. Thank you so much to everyone who has sent in requests. You just send requests either to my Patreon or PayPal, either one. It could be a review, re-review, movie topic in general, reaction, what have you. But thank you so much. Still trying to get over being sick. It always takes me forever to do that, so I do apologize for that. But the request for today, which makes sense because it's October now, Scooby-Doo on Zombie Island. Now, before I get into the film, a little bit of my history of Scooby-Doo. I remember my aunt would send us quite a few tapes taped from her TV because she had cable, and it'd be a variety of stuff, including entire tapes full of Scooby-Doo episodes. And I love the old Scooby-Doo stuff. Scooby-Doo, Where Are You? I also remember a pup named Scooby-Doo. In particular, I enjoyed the older movies. Scooby-Doo and the Boo Brothers might be my favorite of the movies. Also Scooby-Doo and the Reluctant Werewolf. The Ghoul School, that was okay. But I enjoyed the voice work of Don Messick as Scooby-Doo and Casey Kasem as Shaggy. In fact, Shaggy became my favorite character, maybe because I could relate to him. Not so much this, but some say, well, that wasn't part of it too, but that's the joke people made. But I don't know, I just enjoy the voice work, the animation with those Hanna-Barbera cartoons. Yes, at times were limited, and the fact that they would use the same background, so there'd be chase sequences and just the background rotated over and over again, or the same walking animation. But you know what, for the time, it was fine. It was fine. And so growing up with, the same guy voicing Scooby, pretty much the same guy voicing Shaggy, and you also had Daphne and Velma and Fred. And then some of those kind of disappeared, because then you had other shows where it was Scooby, Shaggy, and Scrappy-Doo, or Scooby, Shaggy, Scrappy-Doo, and Daphne, because I remember the 13 Ghosts of Scooby-Doo, where you had Vincent Price as part of the cast. And I think that's why when I got to this, and the big reveal is, oh my god, it's real monsters, as if it was a big deal. And I kind of sat there going, so what? They've done that multiple times. I mean, Shaggy got turned to a fucking werewolf. I mean, I'm supposed to be like, oh my god, they're facing real monsters. I'm like, Shaggy got turned to a fucking werewolf and got into a car race with like the Frankenstein monster, and Dracula was on his ass, and or they're dealing with ghosts, the Boo brothers, or like I said, the 13 Ghosts of Scooby-Doo. Those are real monsters that they had to get back into this fucking box, this chest, with the help of Daphne and Vincent Price. So I guess to me, I'm like, well, what's the big deal with it being real monsters? But I guess for a lot of people, maybe they didn't see that stuff, or they forgot. So then when the whole theme of it, I guess it was compared to the original series. Because Scooby-Doo, Where Are You, which was, what, 2-3 seasons, it would always, they go on a mystery, there's a monster, or a ghost, or a creature of some sort, pull off the mask, someone, old man this, or old man Winners, you know, that type of stuff, and go, I would have got away with it too if it weren't you for you meddling kids, and your dumb dog. So it was a play off of those. And this seemed like, I don't know if it's trying to, good luck trying to think of the fucking continuity of all these series put together. Because there's so many like reboots and changes, and no, this is how they really started. No, this is how they really started. No, this is how they really started. This has to be the cartoon series that has the most origins. Because you had a pup named Scooby-Doo, and that's how it started. But then you had the live-action prequel, whatever the fuck it was called. And then you had, I think, the new Scoob. They did another origin. Like, they fucking more retconning here. And then the Halloween franchise. But I was much more into Scooby-Doo back then than I am nowadays. But at the same time, I could enjoy those old, I could still pop in the Boo Brothers and enjoy it quite a bit. Same with the Reluctant Werewolf. Same with some of those old Scooby-Doo cartoons. Now you say it's a nostalgia factor, but for me there's a bit more to it than that. And I remember when this came out, I was excited for it, being a Scooby-Doo fan. And then when I saw it, I was disappointed. Now, watch it again, I don't think it's a bad film. I think it's well animated. I thought it has some really nice monster designs. There's a little bit of dark moments, which is nice. And the fact of, like, for example, there's these voodoo dolls, and they get of some of the Scooby Gang, and they get near a fire, and it looks like some of them are ready to melt as if they're made of wax, but they flee nick of time. But little moments like that, or a moment where Shaggy and Scooby, their life force sucked out, and they're getting older and older, which sounds tame, and it is tame, but for a Scooby cartoon, it's like, okay, they did a little bit of stuff here and there. And the thing with these animated direct-to-video films, they're fairly short. I mean, some are like an hour and 9 minutes or an hour and 13 minutes. So they're not, they're not strung along way past their what running time they should have. Some of the music is pretty decent. I didn't mind the theme in this by Third Eye Blind. The band did the Scooby-Doo theme. I actually thought they did a pretty good job. And to sum up the story before I get further, they're on a case in a castle. Yet again, it's another man in a costume. Cuts to the current time. Fred and Daphne, they run a TV show. They've split. the gang is split. They're doing their own thing. Fred and Daphne, they want to find an actual real haunted place for Daphne's TV show. Scooby and Shaggy, they're guys who find food as contraband, but then of course they ate all the evidence, so they get fired. Velma runs a bookstore with a lot of mystery novels. All in all, they get together for this new case, which takes them into the bayou. And you get some noticeable voice actors. Mark Hamill, which his character's not in the film much, sadly. Because, it's Mark Hamill. He voices a character named Snakebite, who's a hunter, who's got this big boar, this big pig. He's only in it for like a handful of moments, which is too bad. The driver of this boat is this voice actor named Jim Cummings. I'm like, I know I recognize that voice. He voiced the character of Leatherhead in the old 80s Ninja Turtles cartoon. I'm like, of course, because that was a bayou, that kind of accent of Leatherhead. I'm like, it's almost the same voice. When they get there, they meet Tara Strong, which she popped up with a variety of roles that made her pretty famous. Just look up Tara Strong. Isn't she one of the My Little Pony? I don't know. I don't watch that fucking show. Nothing against people who do. Have nothing against bronies. Just not for me. Just not my cup of tea. And then you also have Adrienne Barbeau, from John Carpenter's The Fog, Escape from New York. She has a voice in this. There's also a person who works on works in the area. And it's Camp Clark, another alumni of the 80s Ninja Turtles cartoon. And he voiced Leonardo on that. He also was in one of the voices in, depending which dub you did, of Akira. So I was like, oh cool, it was nice to hear his voice too. But anytime I hear it, I think of Leonardo from the 80s Ninja Turtles cartoon. So the supporting cast had some nice voice actors in it. The gang themselves, I think that's as superficial and dumb as it sounds, because I grew up with Scooby-Doo, because I heard those voices time and time and time again. When I watched this, I went, that's not Scooby. That's not Shaggy. And I think that really when I first saw this, it didn't make me want to watch these films. And I did watch the first couple, like Zombie Island and The Witch's Ghost and The Alien Invaders. But I could not deal with the fact of, that's not Shaggy and that's not Scooby. That's not their voices. And Fred, same voice actor for that. And of course it made sense, and like Don Mezek, who voiced Scooby-Doo, he passed away. And sadly though, I gotta admit, when Don Mezek passed away, nobody else has ever voiced Scooby as well as him. Casey Kasem was still with us at the time, but the reason he wasn't in these, he eventually would come back into the role of Shaggy, but he wasn't in these because Casey Kasem was a vegan, and he wanted the Shaggy character to be portrayed as a vegan. But the people who made it go, well, that's ridiculous, that's stupid, we already animated stuff where he's eating crawfish and he's eating this. You know what? We hired this guy named Billy West. If you still want to do it, we could say, hey, sorry Billy, here's your money. Come on, Casey, let's do this. Casey Kasem stood his ground, and he wasn't in a first bunch of these movies, which was a detriment. It was a detriment to the films, in my opinion. I mean, yeah, I get it. Shaggy, but at the same time, I'm like, it's not that big of a fucking deal. Shaggy, you just still have him eat. Just have him be bread and tomatoes and lettuce and all that shit. It's not like Shaggy eating crawfish, ooh, that really affected the plot, the story, the jokes of the fucking movie. No, it didn't. You could easily... I mean, I could see if the first one, they had animated it. I said, well, we already animated it, man. I mean, what do you want us to do? Although it's weird that you start animating it without making fucking sure you got the voice cast. Well, maybe that's maybe it's I guess that could be a typical thing, where they start the animation and then they go, oh, let's find a voice cast for this. I guess that's understandable. But you would think with Casey Kasem, who would be one of the most important, now that Don Mezek has passed away, but instead you got Billy West. Now, if that name sounds familiar, he was voices on Ren and Stimpy. He voiced Fry on Futurama. And that's the thing with Billy West in this. He just at times sounded like Fry from Futurama. And I could deal with it. But again, I just kept hearing Fry from Futurama. Maybe if he was a little bit looser of Fry from Futurama. And that kind of took me out of it because I didn't... Like, to me, Matthew Lillard is the only guy after Casey Kasem that really got Shaggy down. I know a lot of people like Scott Innes, who... He did a lot of it. Because Scott Innes, he voiced Scooby. And then the one after this, Billy West did not come back because he was too busy with Futurama. So then Scott Innes did Shaggy and Scooby's voice. I'm not... Again, it's one of those like I could deal with, but I wouldn't say I liked. Does that make sense? Like, I wouldn't say I liked or loved it. It's just I could deal with it. Especially compared to what I've heard with that new fucking Scooby movie, which I did not see. Had no fucking interest. The fact it's called Scoob is stupid. The fact that, for what I understand, it's like a fucking Marvel superhero or shit annoys me. And then Will Forte sounds like he's not even fucking trying. He'd be the worst voice for Shaggy, but again, based on clips I've seen. But this... Sticking with this one, Billy West as Shaggy was there. I could deal with Scott Innes as Scooby. Like I said, I don't think anyone has ever got Scooby down other than Don Mezek. And again, when he died, to me, Scooby, the Scooby-Doo character and that voice just was never the same. And that's why any of these films, the title character, I listen to the voice and I can't help it. I know it's stupid and it's not their fault because, you know, Don Mezek passed away. What more can you do? So I understand, you know, you don't want to just not ever do the character again. Believe me, I understand it. On the flip side, it's just years and years of listening to that voice. I'm like, that's not the voice. That's not the same. And it goes back to the phrase, okay, I'll deal with it. But it just... But that's why I disliked these when I was a kid. And even watching these nowadays, it's like, it's there. I know I'm being harsh on it. But I wouldn't say it's awful either. It's just, I mean, the story is interesting in the film, being taking place in the bayou. The animation is well done. Apparently they put a lot of faith in this because they had a lot of money into this with marketing, promotion, and they did like a one-off. And I guess at that time, Scooby-Doo had not been in the public eye for a while. I mean, technically there were cartoons, but even those were never to the success of the older cartoons back in the day. Which people would forget. Scooby-Doo, Where Are You? That debuted in 1969, give or take, so quite a long time ago. The other voice actors, like Daphne, I thought that voice actor did fine. The voice of Velma was a bit weird to me. I can't put my finger on it, but it's one of those where, okay, I'm trying to deal and manage with it. It's just one of those things. I know I'm repeating myself. It's just like I'm so used to the voice actors from the past that I saw for years and years and years for a variety, decades of material. And then it's like, okay, I don't know about this. But pretty much they get to the bayou, they start seeing this ghost, and then these zombies, they think it's fake, they try to pull off the zombie, but they pull off the head, and they realize it's real. The songs worked for the movie, like one song, It's Terror Time Again. I mean, they work well for what they're supposed to do. Scooby and Shaggy as characters, either they're eating a lot or they keep trying these hot peppers, eating crawfish. Like a lot of time is them eating. That's the thing with Scooby-Doo cartoons. You don't really get a lot of character work, because you go, oh, it's a Scooby cartoon. Maybe little bits here and there, but a lot of the later cartoons I haven't seen, and apparently in one of them, because I saw clips of this on YouTube, one of the shows that I believe Matthew Lillard voiced Shaggy, apparently Shaggy and Velma became an item, which I thought that was interesting. I forgot what show that was, but like I said, with Scooby-Doo, for the most part, they follow a formula. Yeah, it's shaken a little bit from time to time. Like the first couple of these direct-to-video movies, the threat was real. It was a real, real zombies, real voodoo, and the next one, it's a real witch, and the one after, there are real aliens as well as fake aliens. But then soon after, they went back to the, oh, it's someone in a mask, unmasked them, so on and so forth. Real quickly, I can't go on without mentioning, I do remember the new Scooby-Doo movies, where they would meet like the Three Stooges. Obviously the Three Stooges sadly were not alive at then, but I remember that, and Laurel and Hardy, I think Sonny and Cher at one point, the Addams Family, Don Knotts, which that was some fun stuff. Yeah, I do remember those. But anyway, get back to this. I would say of the slate of animated films, this is one of the stronger ones because the supporting voice cast, I didn't have Cam Clark and Mark Hamill, as little as he's in it, still cool to hear his voice, and Adrian Barbeau. And like I said, the animation is well done. I like the look of the zombies, and I like funny enough, the real villains, and that's the thing that I wouldn't say, granted that's because I remember this from seeing it back in the day, I would say the mystery itself is not that hard to solve for suspects, because you have like the very easy red herring that's obvious. Mark Hamill's character is barely in it, so I didn't even remember him to think of him as a suspect. So then, when the reveal of the villains, it wasn't that surprising to me. But you get into a little history, and you find out Adrian Barbeau and Tara Strong are the villains, and then there's sort of werecats, cat creatures. I'm like, so is this like Stephen King's Sleepwalkers or something? Well, I guess technically it can't be that because the cats, if that's the case, the cats would join Scooby-Doo and attack these fucking creatures, but because that's another running thing is that Scooby-Doo has cats and is chasing all these cats, which I don't know if he's done that before. I thought, with Scooby-Doo, he was a bit more, as stupid as this sounds, above that, of just chasing cats. Granted, he's a dog, but it's like, at the time you think the cats are innocent and just made Scooby look like a dickhead, but I guess the last shot is like the cats have this glistening of the eyes. I'm like, are they possessed or are they something? Are they gonna dive bomb on Scooby and come to bits? I don't know. But yeah, some of the lines of dialogue are not the best. Like when the gang is tied up, Scooby and Shaggy find them, and the first thing Shaggy asks is, "What are you guys doing, charades?" Yes, Shaggy, they're doing charades when they're tied up and their arms can't move and they're sitting there with a rope around them. Yeah, they're doing charades. So that's for me. This is not a film I would ever watch it in. Really, none of these animated Scooby-Doo films I would watch it in. Because again, with the voices and such, I would just rather just watch the countless older stuff with the voice actors I prefer. Or curious to see the later ones with Matthew Lillard, because I think he did a good job as Shaggy in the live action films. So it'd be interesting to hear him more as a voice actor, which for some reason they didn't get him back for the new Scooby-Doo film. They didn't even ask Matthew Lillard. They got Will Forte, whatever the fuck his name is, which that definitely lost my interest in that. I might have been interested in watching that and Matthew Lillard voice Shaggy, but when you even take that away, fuck that. But yeah, Scooby-Doo on Zombie Island, I thought it was an interesting idea that you find out that the zombies are actually the good guys because these creatures, they take these victims and these are the victims wanting to get their revenge. I thought that was an interesting twist. So I will say that wasn't typical, that wasn't formulaic, so I appreciate that. Like I said, the songs work for what they are, the animation is fairly well done during the chase sequences. Like I said, the designs of the zombies I thought were pretty good. They don't make Daphne a victim. Daphne is a bit of a stronger character, more independent character, so you have that going. A lot of times in the past, it would seem like Scooby and Shaggy would be the ones to save the day. They do let the others get their own. They don't make the other characters useless. So like Daphne and Velma are the ones that stop the two and use voodoo dolls back against them. So there you go for Hollywood, who say that no one has ever made movies with strong women until now we're doing it. Haha, look at us. I'm like, even a film like fucking Scooby-Doo and Zombie Island did it well before you dumbasses. I guess apparently later on with these films, like this was a one-off, it became very, very successful, and that's why almost every year since you would get another Scooby-Doo animated film. And I think the same group worked on the first 3 or 4, and like because it was a one-off and a crapshoot, they were kind of left alone. Then Witch's Ghost, the studio's like, you gotta do this, you gotta do this. And then with, I think the Alien Invaders, they were left alone. And then Cyber Chase, they're like, you gotta do this, you gotta do this. It might have been after that where some of them just said fuck this and left. I believe it. I could be wrong on that. from what I remember on those, I would say this is better than the Witch's Ghost. Just because I thought the story with the bayou and the whole zombies being the good guys, and that was a little bit more interesting story. And I thought it was a bit better animated compared to Witch's Ghost. Alien Invaders, the interesting part of that is Scooby and Shaggy fall in love with sort of female versions of themselves. Technically that's what they were. But with that said, anyway, not a bad film. If you're a Scooby fan, give it a look. Especially if you're someone like me who... Let me put it this way. If you don't know shit about Scooby-Doo, and you're not like me, you followed the shows for years and years, and you did get past the voice actors, honestly, I would say with Scooby-Doo, start off with the older stuff, like the Boo Brothers. But people are like, oh, but it's just Scrappy-Doo. Well, you know, that is true, but I still like that and Reluctant Werewolf more than these. Even with Scrappy-Doo. Little fucking twerp. But that's my only issue with fucking the Boo Brothers and Reluctant Werewolf. I don't... fuck Scrappy-Doo. Should have just been the two, you know, anyway. Should have just had Daphne or Velma instead. But anyway, maybe that's another day, another story. But overall, you know, I don't think it's a bad film. It's not a bad film. So, with that said, thanks for watching. Take care. We'll see you guys later. Bye-bye.